Well, first of all, Yuri's team approached me. It was the Thursday or Friday before. They reached out and said they reached out to someone who knew me and said, "Do you know Dallas?" And that person said yes. And do you think she'd be willing to meet with us? And so that's where it started. I had not really ever. I'd met Yuri once briefly prior to that, but we agreed to have a meeting, and that meeting turned into a deal. We negotiated for 10 hours on that Sunday. So that was last Sunday, and we started at 10 in the morning, and it was a great day. And we got to know each other, and we talked about where we stand on things, and I feel like this was a fantastic deal we got. It's good for Yuri, it's good for me, and it's good for British Columbia most of all, and for the center right vote in British Columbia. So to get down into some of the details, the major deal that we struck is that if Yuri wins the leadership, which I believe he's going to, he will agree to stand down the Conservative Party in 5 ridings in British Columbia so that one BC can run uncontested in those ridings. And this is a wonderful deal for us. And I think a very important deal for British Columbia too, because I know that our membership is still growing, our support is growing, and of course, people are very worried, understandably, about splitting the vote on the right. So I believe we've addressed that, and 1BC is basically perceived as the party that's holding the line on some really hard issues in this province that bring on all sorts of name calling against me and so on, but I won't go wobbly and I'll stand firm. And so people who are voting for the Conservatives now can know that that party needs me, and they need to get 1BC to agree that we've held the line, and we will continue to do that for British Columbia. And I think Yuri is also a very talented and seasoned businessman, and he understands the magnitude of the problems facing BC right now on just a fiscal and economic level. We totally understand we're in big trouble, and the work ahead is going to be very serious work, and we need serious people.
Right. Well, it seems that all the leadership hopefuls are in agreement on things like repealing DRIPA and sort of resetting the clock on Indigenous reconciliation, and that is being talked about. But as you mentioned, you are really the only one who is sort of addressing the elephant in the room, if you will, about Kamloops and other First Nations in BC and across Canada, where you have this backdrop of this specter of genocide and mass graves and this incredibly amped up kind of atmosphere of allegation. So because you're addressing those issues head on and you're speaking to them frankly, your popularity is growing. You have a significant following of people who are cheering you on. So I know I've heard people criticize the deal, but it seems to make a lot of sense in a way, because you can continue to have your sort of moderated voice, and speak to these issues the way you've been speaking to them in the past, which is resonating with a lot of British Columbians.
Correct. I have to be realistic about 1BC as well. We're a strong party. We've just had some poll results come out today that say we're polling around 9.7%, 10, sometimes pushing 11. Some polls have had us closer to 13%. It's even stronger in the Fraser Valley and in the rural areas. But we are doing better than the Greens in the Lower Mainland now. And I think, but as a party, as we get closer to the election, we have to know that people would really support our group, but they need to make sure that we don't have another EB government, which is going to be, or an NDP government. I don't care who's running that party, it's going to be the same mess. And so we have to defeat the NDP. And I don't want anybody to think that I will do anything to deliberately be a spoiler in that effort. I want to help British Columbia move forward. I'm in this situation not through my own design. I was expelled from the Conservative Party approximately a year ago. It was March of last year for making that fateful post about there are zero bodies at Kamloops. And that started this whole journey for me. And so, as the world works, sometimes we're given a role that we didn't expect. And I've done this, and it hasn't always been pleasant, but I also know that truth is the most important thing in policy, and we have to have truth in order to build strong policy. Just like anything in life, all of our relationships rely on truth as well. A relationship that's built on a lie is never going to succeed, really. It will fall apart eventually due to the more and more lies that have to be told to support the original lie. And so we have to have truth as a foundation for everything we're doing. And I keep that. And so I guess what I'm saying is that I have to be realistic about the possibility for 1BC. And I see this as a massive victory for our party. 5 seats is incredible. Imagine if we had gone into a general election and won 5 seats, I would have been jubilant at that. And so I think that this is a wonderful thing. And splitting the vote in British Columbia, as we know, historically, the NDP will pretty much always get approximately 30 to 35% of the vote, no matter how disastrous their policies are. And so we have to make sure on the right that we don't do that. And I've heard that from a lot of people, and I'm aware of it too. I mean, I'm not a fool. I know the problems. So I'm thrilled because 1BC, I can continue to be Dallas, and Yuri can be Yuri, and there will probably be times that we have disagreements, just like between the Greens and the NDP. This happens. But we are going to be a voice and a strong voice, and people in BC don't need to panic and think that all of the things I've been saying will disappear. And I can't tell you how happy I was last week. And also I want to give Yuri Fulmer credit for having the courage to come forward and say the reality is the Conservatives cannot win the next election without 1BC being involved in it. Everybody else wants to pretend that's not going to be the truth, but it is the truth. We will result, like they need us to work together, and he had the courageousness to come forward and the foresight, frankly, to come forward and say, we need to do a deal here and work this out. So I'm thrilled. And I think it's been bad news for the NDP, who was hoping we would remain split, but, I'm very happy.